All right, so we are at our Clean Energy for All webinar for August. The price is wrong, how we fight electric bills inflated by a broken system. Let's see here. Okay, so Zoom setup per usual. Please stay on mute if you are not speaking. Feel free to start your video if you'd like to join us on camera, but we are recording, so your video may be recorded. Use chat to ask questions or ask for technical help as we are going through the presentation. We do have Tom here available who may be able to answer your questions in real time. Automated closed captions are available if you want to turn those on. And then when we get to our question section at the end, you can use the raise hand function to ask your questions or put it in the chat. Okay, community agreements. Engage with kindness. No forms of discrimination will be tolerated. Speak from your own experience. If you find yourself speaking a lot, make sure you're leaving space for others. I imagine we're going to have plenty of time for everyone's questions today. So we will not try and use jargon, acronyms, or industry language, but we are dealing with topics that have a lot of that floating around. So if we do say something and you're not sure what it is, what it means, please put that into the chat, let us know, and we can clarify for you. We may ask you to continue discussions outside of this event if we are going long, and we may not have all the answers here tonight. So if you have a question and we don't have the answer, we'll take note of that and get back to you. Our Clean Energy for All webinar series, we have these pretty much every 2 months. If you want to check out the link there, you can watch our past recordings. We anticipate our next one will be in October. Okay, so along with our game show theme here, our agenda, and yes, I'm acknowledging that for The Price is Right, this is the wrong style of wheel, but trademark prevents me from getting the actual one. So we're going to talk about what PJM is, why there is a problem with its processes, what the impact of those processes are on Pennsylvania, some possible solutions, and who we can try and influence to get those solutions in place. And then action steps that everyone here and whoever's watching this in the future can hopefully take to actually have an impact on this and get our electricity bills down. So this is very action oriented. We're not going to really get into the weeds of how everything is functioning. We're really going to focus on the action steps that you can take away from this event. And then we'll have time for questions. Okay, so our team tonight, you're going to hear mostly from Nate Regal, our Clean Energy Program Advocate. Tom Schuster, our chapter director, is on chat monitoring. And I am Melissa, our senior distributed organizer and facilitator for this series. All the game show wackiness of this is entirely my doing. So don't hold that against Nate or Tom if you don't find it entertaining. Okay, and so with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Nate. Go for it.
All right, thank you. And as Melissa said, just setting the stage here, this webinar is not intended to make anyone a PJM expert. We're going to stay pretty high level and hopefully provide enough information to give some understanding of what's going on and how all of us are being impacted, as well as what we can do, because that's the optimistic part, is there are things that we can do. So that's the part that makes me happy, is focusing on, the let's say the optimistic parts. But okay, well, thankfully, partners have developed this wonderful video, because nobody wants to hear me talk all night long.
Have you noticed your electricity bills going up? There's a reason, and it has to do with a company called PJM Interconnection. PJM manages the electrical grid for Pennsylvania and 12 other states. It decides how electricity flows from power plants to your home and how much it costs. But PJM's outdated systems are costing you money. Its flawed process overpays companies for power, passing on billions in higher costs to consumers like you. Meanwhile, PJM's process for getting more energy on the grid has failed. Nearly 2,000 power projects are stuck in a backlog. 95% of these are cheaper, cleaner energy sources. This forces Pennsylvania to rely on expensive natural gas for 60% of our electricity, while less than 5% comes from cheaper, more reliable renewable energy. And guess what? The people who make decisions at PJM mostly represent utilities and fossil fuel power companies. No wonder they're blocking cheaper, more reliable renewable energy projects. They've rigged the system against you, your family, and your community. PJM needs to take action now. First, it needs to stop delaying approvals for new clean energy projects. Second, it needs to give consumers a greater say in the decisions that impact the prices they pay. High energy bills impact all of us. Tell Governor Shapiro and your state legislators to keep up the pressure on PJM to fix our grid and cut your electricity bills.
All right, so that video actually covered a lot of this. So to cover the acronyms, and Tom is my supervisor, and I noticed he answered something in the chat, but I'm going to disagree with him. PJM used to stand for Pennsylvania, Jersey, Maryland, but now it is when you go onto PJM's website, they basically make the claim that it is no longer an acronym. It is just the name of, it's PJM Interconnection is the name of the company, right? So what they are is a regional transmission operator, RTO. So if you're paying attention to PJM, you'll probably see RTO mentioned quite a bit, in whether it be articles or if you look anything up online. And what a regional transmission operator does is they're responsible for making sure that there is enough electricity on the grid and making sure it flows from the generators, the power plants, to the electricity distribution companies. Those are the people that, when you pay your electric bill, that's the electric distribution company. So when you think about PJM, I know we're in Pennsylvania, we're focused on Pennsylvania, but one thing to keep in mind is PJM covers a pretty large area, more than just Pennsylvania. So every now and then there are things happening in other states that will impact, we'll say, PJM as a whole. But today we're going to focus primarily on Pennsylvania. Next slide, please. All right, and some of the we'll say the charges that PJM is responsible for, not charges as in like electricity bill charges. I just mean like what they're supposed to do is ensure reliability of the grid, electricity resilience, and affordability. That's the other key part, is trying to make sure that we have enough electricity to meet the demand and making sure that it's done in an affordable manner. Now PJM, since it does cover more than one state, it's not a government entity. It's considered a nonprofit organization. The oversight when it comes to PJM is the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC. And if anybody knows anything about FERC, that's also another very, we'll say, large, convoluted organization. And one of the issues that that video already touched on, and we're going to focus on this a little bit during the, ahead in the webinar, is the fact that currently PJM is a bit secretive. There isn't a whole lot of transparency when it comes to how they make their decisions. The public isn't involved to a large extent. There are options to participate if you want to try to join different, we'll say, interest groups that are involved with PJM. But largely, votes are made by the voting members, and nobody knows, who is voting for what when it comes to decisions made at PJM. And we're going to, the optimistic part is focus on hopefully a remedy for that. And as the video pointed out, a lot of the voting members, they can be electricity distribution companies and electricity generators. So just think, with no accountability for how they vote, there's no guarantee that they're voting in the best for the public interest, right? They could, I'm not saying they do, I'm saying they could be voting, out of self-interest. That could be something that's happening, but without any transparency, that's hard to tell. Thankfully, though, this is the cliffhanger. You just got to stay on the whole webinar, because we're going to get to the remedy. That's the fun part. All right, next slide, please. All right, and now I think this is most people. I'm assuming, and so I might be wrong, but I think most people are interested in how is this impacting us. And I think that we all are going to be seeing these impacts if we haven't already. I think most of us probably already have, and what it is about the process that impacts us. So right now, it's been pointed out that PJM has a faulty auction process, and that auction is what determines, the prices for a large part. That's how they basically make sure that they're purchasing enough electricity to meet demand. And right now, there's supposed to be annual auctions. This is where it gets complicated. I'm trying to stay high level. There was a break in conducting the auctions, so now we had a few auctions that were pretty rapid succession, but they cover a 1-year period of time. Each auction does, and we'll say the empirical evidence of these auctions is a reliance on a lot of the fossil fuel type of generation, not so much of the the renewable energy, especially the wind and the solar. Another issue here that we have is we have an extremely long queue of projects that are backlogged at PJM. And most of those projects are renewable energy projects, which is again, the optimistic part. So the bad part is we have a really long queue that isn't moving very well. But hopefully once it starts moving, we have a whole lot of renewable energy that's in the queue. There is, again, I like to focus on the optimistic aspect of things. So even though that I'm trying to point out, like, okay, we're all going to be impacted by this, and I like to focus on, but this is what we can do. And sometimes, but this is already happening. One thing I just read earlier this week was that PJM is, for the first time in a long time, now accepting new projects into the queue, because the queue was no new projects for a period of time while they were trying to do some reform. So now I look at that as being progress. They're now accepting new projects again. So I like to focus on the optimistic part, because to me that means that there's opportunity for things to get better, and there's opportunity for our actions to actually make an impact. So next slide, please. And Melissa, I don't know if you can use your cursor to outline maybe about where the state of Pennsylvania is, but if you look, there's a shade of we'll say gray, which is Lake Erie, and then there's Pennsylvania, and those are all of the renewable energy projects that are in the queue there, solar and wind. So you see, Pennsylvania has a lot of potential projects. And so now hopefully you understand why I like to focus on the optimistic part, because hopefully that means sometime in the near future, we have the potential to diversify our energy portfolio. Next slide, please. All right. So what are the impacts? I think we've probably already seen some of the impacts. If you've been paying attention to your electricity bills, you've probably noticed an increase. And seeing how PJM covers the entire state of Pennsylvania as well as other states, every electricity distribution company, it's going to have that trickle down effect where no matter where you are in the state, your electricity bill is going to have an increase because of those auctions that I mentioned. Those recent auctions were very high, never been that high before. So now everybody's seeing these rate increases. Another impact for this is the different interest groups are using this rate increase and the auction results for their own agenda. So now we're also seeing some disinformation and bad policy being proposed, and some of that is based on the premise that fossil fuels are more dependable, which I would argue that renewables can be just as dependable, and that renewable energy and clean energy policy is the reason that we're seeing these high prices. PJM has mentioned that the demand is increasing, which it is, and we need more energy. But as we saw on the previous slide, we have plenty of energy in the queue. So getting renewable energy on the ground and hooked up can help with this. But right now, that's the impact that we're seeing is everybody's going to see higher electricity prices, and we're going to see a lot of messaging that will focus on we're in the situation because of clean energy goals, which again, if you just do a little bit of thinking into the fact that we have a whole bunch of projects that are stuck in the queue and have not been approved, I don't say the energy projects are to blame. The energy projects are part of the solution. So, all right, next slide, please. Now let's talk about Governor Shapiro. And unfortunately, I'm not as, we'll say, game showy as Melissa, so I'm not going to be like, Governor Shapiro, come on down, although I guess I just did. So, all right. So we'll talk about Governor Shapiro a little bit. He's been a champion when it comes to trying to influence PJM reform. And there's a lot of other governors that have been supportive of his actions, and a lot of collaboration among governors, which is good. It was Governor Shapiro, though, who filed the complaint before FERC, because remember, FERC is the entity that oversees PJM. So Governor Shapiro filed the complaint, and a result of that is they now have a capacity auction cap, a ceiling that they cannot exceed, as well as a floor. Now, the floor doesn't benefit consumers. The floor benefits the generators, but not us, not the people that are paying the bills for electricity to come into our homes. Now, the ceiling is high, but it is still a ceiling that the auction cannot exceed, and the previous auction met the ceiling. So even though the previous auction was very, very high, the one way to look at it is if it wasn't for Governor Shapiro's complaint, it would have been higher because it did cap out at the ceiling. So that's good news. And the other good news is we still have Governor Shapiro on our side, and trying to relentlessly address reform at PJM to protect consumers. Next slide, please. Okay, so other actions. In an attempt to have a remedy to some of the like the capacity issues, the prices and everything. Now, PJM did go through a process where it's called a Reliability Resource Initiative, and it fast-tracked some of the projects that were being evaluated. And as you can see from that slide, it claims that it'll address increasing demand. 51 total projects, that's throughout the entire PJM region. 7 projects are in Pennsylvania, 5 gas, 1 nuclear, 1 wind. One thing to note is there's no new solar and no battery storage in this Reliability Resource Initiative in Pennsylvania. Another thing to note here is the gas, especially, New gas projects take a while from when they're approved to when they can get electricity added into the grid. Wind and solar, a lot faster. And since the claim is that these will address increasing demand, demand is increasing faster than what some of these fast-tracked projects are going to be able to compensate for. Next slide, please. All right, and this is the good part. This is where we get excited and get a little bit happier. So we have some solutions. And again, I'm gonna go back just thinking about Governor Shapiro. He's already been urging PJM to do I think many of these, and then a legislator for the last bullet, but I'll get to that. The capacity auctions. Well, one issue of that is they are intended to be annual auctions. It's other operators, not PJM, but the other transmission operators around the nation use different methods, and some of them have the sub-annual auctions that are sometimes you'll hear people say they're seasonal auctions rather than an annual auction because there's different electricity demand during different seasons, and that's been found to save money, save the consumers money on their bills. Leads to cheaper electricity. So that's one thing, is hopefully we'll see sub-annual auctions in the future. Again, a point of optimism. PJM now has a sub-annual auction task force that is supposed to be looking into this and getting stakeholder feedback and developing a plan. So that's I consider that a positive. The other one is just addressing the queue, because we do need more electricity generation. There is going to be more demand, and so the only way to get around more demand is more electricity generation. I am going to make the statement here that renewable energy should be part of that additional electricity that gets added onto the grid. And you'll hear arguments every now and then saying renewable energy is unreliable. I think that is that's a biased statement. I would say it's reliable. It's intermittent. We know that solar energy produces solar panels produce electricity when the sun is shining. So we know that we're not getting electricity produced at night. We know wind turbines produce electricity when the wind is blowing. When the wind is not, we're not going to get it. But we know when we're going to get the electricity from these sources. And then what I like to focus on is the diversification of the portfolio, almost like a retirement program, like a 401k. You don't want all your eggs in one basket. So the more renewable energy we have on the grid, the more diverse of an energy portfolio, the better. It lends to stability, resilience, all of that. And it can lower prices. But what I think often people don't talk about enough is the battery storage component, because here the other argument is because of the intermittent nature, renewable energy is not dispatchable, and it's so it can't be called upon at a moment's notice, where the argument is often made that coal plants can. Now, stick with me here. This is going to take some imagination, but I'm confident that we can get through this. Imagine a coal plant, just a fictitious, coal power plant with a stockpile of coal. That stockpile of coal can be thought of as a energy storage, right? That's energy just waiting to be converted to electricity, but that is energy storage. It's a pile of energy. And when we think of batteries now, which, by the way, the first chemical battery I think was invented back in 1800, so it's not a new technology. Batteries aren't. Battery storage provides the same thing. You now have electricity storage, energy storage in the form of a battery, and you couple that with solar, you couple that with wind, and now all of a sudden you have dispatchable energy that can be called upon at a moment's notice, and you now we'll say buffer that intermittent nature of the renewable energy. So battery storage, while it is not a generator, it really enables renewable energy to perform on the grid in a much more reliable manner, and in a manner also that is still cheap, efficient, and effective. And now the last solution that we're going to highlight is just transparency when it comes to decisions made at PJM. And thankfully, there's currently a House bill. New Jersey just passed a bill doing the same thing. But right now there's a House bill just saying that any of the voting members of PJM would have to disclose how they vote on various issues at PJM, and how that vote was made in the public interest. So to me, that's huge. That bill is not going to right away, we'll say, affect your electricity bill that's coming in the mail every month, but that House bill has the potential to fundamentally change how decisions are made at PJM, which should improve conditions in the future. All right, I think we're ready for the next slide. Yeah, and we covered this a little bit. So due to the nature of PJM, they're not the easiest organization to interface with. There's limited we'll say leverage when it comes to trying to provide input and to try to influence change. They are overseen, though, by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Now, the challenge there is FERC is also incredibly complex. And if you ever try to navigate the FERC website and try to, we'll say you want to file a comment, it's very, I would say it looks like it's written by an attorney, right? It's very, very complex. It's not user friendly as I would like it to be. But that's why we rely on other what I call the heavy hitters in Pennsylvania that we can contact and voice our opinion. We have legislators that we can contact, and a good example of that is that House Bill 1599, the one for PJM transparency, was introduced by Representative Rabb. Now that bill has already made it into the Senate, so now we're focusing on, and I'll get to this, but we're focusing on contacting senators about that bill. But any issue you have that's related to PJM, you can contact any of your legislators and let them know how you feel about PJM, and they are in a position to where they have ability to act. And in most states, the Attorney General is another option. That is, we'll say, technically an option in Pennsylvania. However, in Pennsylvania, when it comes to PJM, our governor has been taking the lead role in that. So our Attorney General is not so active when it comes to the PJM issue that then went over to the governor's office. So that is the other. So now, when you think about, okay, how do I try to influence PJM and who's going to listen to my concerns? Your legislators and the governor. Those are the two big options that we have here in Pennsylvania. And thankfully, we have a whole bunch of action items following this slide that we can all take. So next slide. All right, so here's what we can do. What everyday people, you and I, this is what we can do. We're in the audience of this game show, right? So what we can do, we can write a letter to Governor Shapiro. Well, thankfully the letter is already written. So if you're interested, you want to urge Governor Shapiro to continue his efforts And I have there also explore state level protections for consumers, because there's stuff that we can do that isn't reliant on PJM. There are other options that we can do at the state level, for consumer protections, and then state policies for trying to encourage diversified energy portfolio. So Governor Shapiro is a great conduit for those type of actions, and we have that letter. You'll have that link right there. You can click on that and send a letter to Governor Shapiro, and I'm sure that he would appreciate hearing from all of us here tonight. All right, next slide. And that is a great picture of him, by the way. The other one, this is very specific because of where House Bill 1599 is. That's the PJM transparency bill. Right now, we're asking people to contact your state senator. As I already mentioned, it is a bill that was introduced by Representative Rabb. It got pretty awesome bipartisan support in the House, and we're hoping for the same when it comes to the Senate. But it would help if all of our senators heard from us that we want to see this bill pass, and we would like for them to be supportive of the bill. So right here's another option. If you're frustrated about your electricity bills, you want to do something about PJM, you want to improve conditions for in the future, right here you go. We can contact our state senators and have them vote yes for House Bill 1599. Next slide. Now this one's a general one, and I know like not everybody is everybody has different comfort levels. So some people might think, oh yeah, I'll do the letter to the governor, especially if there's one already written, right? It's you click on there, you can send it. So that, some people might be comfortable with that. Some people might be comfortable with contacting their legislators. Other people might not be. And that's the nice thing about, we have options here that maybe you don't want to contact your legislator, but you still want to do something. Getting the information out there is important, especially think we're all on this call, right? And I'm assuming that we're on the call because we know a little bit and wanted to know more, and maybe wanted to act, right? Think about some of the people that maybe aren't familiar with the topic. A letter to the editor can provide that information to other people that may not have the information that we all have right now. So, and the nice thing is, we also have talking points for talking points and templates for letters to the editor regarding PJM. There's some based on we'll say the cost, and some based on renewable energy. So depending on what you're comfortable with and what you want to put, but we have resources to help with letters to the editor. So if that's something that you enjoy doing, here's an action item. We can all write letters to our editor. All right, next slide. Another thing, this is not, again, this isn't PJM related, but this is going to help when it comes to getting renewable energy on the ground in Pennsylvania, and getting it on the ground in a manner that is efficient. And the way that the bill is written has guaranteed savings for people who participate in community energy projects. A lot of people, you'll hear community solar. Community solar is a component of the community energy bill. It's House Bill 504. And what it would do is it would enable community solar to be a legal practice in Pennsylvania. So here again, I'm emphasizing it's not a PJM issue, it's a state issue, and it's not a prescriptive issue. It's not forcing community energy or community solar upon people. It's just allowing it. It's an enabling legislation that would then allow community energy to be an option. And one reason this is important is just think of people that rent, or people that own a home that their roof is shaded or not, they don't have a flat surface pointed in the right direction. people that live in manufactured housing. There are a lot of different demographics and different sectors that they don't have the option of putting solar up on their own, on their roof, right? Or maybe the roof condition is poor right now. But community solar provides an opportunity for everyone to benefit from solar and the guaranteed savings, even if you can't put solar panels on your roof. So that's House Bill 504, and right there we have another action item. So here's another thing, and PJM will that they'll say, and it's true, that every now and then a renewable energy project does get approved by the queue, right? So we have utility scale, large scale solar that gets approved by PJM, and oftentimes now they get down to the local level, townships, counties, and now we have the issue of the local government level with the land use controls, and a lot of what the not in my backyard mentality of people that don't want to see solar. And we see projects get shut down at the local level, even after they've been approved, through other channels. So if you want to see more renewable energy and you want, to have the benefits of that, I encourage everyone to attend, township meetings where these types of projects are being discussed. Now, keep in mind, there's different times when these will be discussed, so that it can be a little bit complex, but I still say it's worth going to one if you know that it's happening. If you have a project in your area, sometimes they'll just be in general discussing, the pros and cons of a project, and would like to hear from the public, which would be nice to have, people that are in support to be there, as well as the not in my backyard people. And there's also oftentimes discussions about ordinances and how that can impact solar and wind projects within the township. And we're in the process. We have a fact sheet being made to help people if they need help, learning more about ordinances, if they want to go to those township meetings also. But right here, the point is, if there's discussion at your township meeting about a solar project, by all means, go attend those and have your voice heard, because you do have a voice. And especially local government is accessible, a lot more accessible than, we'll say, PJM and a lot of state government type of issues. So local government, if you want to make an impact, go to those township meetings when they're discussing this. Next slide. Okay, yeah, and here's another one, again, not PJM related. This is while we wait, because we're already seeing our increasing prices, right? Right now is the time to focus on energy efficiency. I kind of like battery storage, energy efficiency does not get enough attention. And it can be simple. It could be stuff like efficient windows, efficient lighting, adding insulation to your home if you can, weather sealing if you can. Practices like that can really save on your electricity bills. You can also contact your utility company because of Act 129, Energy Efficiency and Conservation Program. Each utility company is supposed to offer some type of program that can help out with energy efficiency. Now, each electricity distribution company may do things a little bit differently, so you'll have to contact your own energy distribution company and find out what options are available for you. And finally, if you can, and I know not everybody can do this, but if you can, by all means, get some renewable energy, distributed renewable energy on your property. If you can get a solar panel on your roof or in your backyard or on a balcony, wherever, if you can do it, do it, because now you're going to see those impacts, and it's going to help out your electricity bill. And that, now this is really optimistic thinking, and we're not there yet, but there's potential, right? If enough people participate in distributed energy generation on their own properties, on your own roofs, all that kind of stuff, we're actually helping with the increasing demand, and we're cutting down on peak and the most expensive time to purchase electricity. So even though all of these projects are designed, we'll say, or emphasize right now, for your benefit, they also have benefits when it comes to the grid as a whole. Although they're small, but collectively, if enough people do these, it can have an impact, at the distribution grid level. All right, next slide. Finally, I was looking at the clock and making sure that I wasn't talking too much, because sometimes I get excited and I talk fast, and I go down rabbit holes. But here we are. We're ready for any questions.
All right, thank you so much, Nate. Tom, are there any lingering questions in the chat that we need to address first?
I don't see any questions that haven't been addressed. Someone asked for the details on the House bill, the transparency bill, and I put that in there. It's HP 1599. There's a link. Also pointed out that it passed in the House by about 159 to 43, which is quite bipartisan. It was a Democratic sponsored bill, but there's only 102 Democrats in there. So we got actually more Republicans voting for it than against it. So I think that bodes well. Okay, there was a question about the PUC. I'm sorry, I did see that, but I didn't actually interpret it as a question. Would you like to come off mute, the person who asked that, and speak your question?
Yes, I mean I'm working with Power Interfaith, who I'm informed they have some great slides that educated me about the Public Utility Commission, which works with the FERC. So the FERC sets what I understand, the CERC sets the guidelines for how PUC should operate, and the Public Utility Commission crafts those, and they're in the process of crafting them, and we're in the process of contacting legislators about that, and when they do come out with to try to accomplish what we're talking about. So I wonder, I mean, all these different groups, I belong to so many of them. I mean, they have a different focus. Some focus on 509, some on the one for pushing back on, so there it seems like, I mean, I think I got it all straight, but I thought you might have at least mentioned the Public Utility Commission and its relationship to the FERC and to making changes for PJM. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can address that. It's this is about as convoluted of an issue as you can possibly imagine when it
Yes.
comes to we'll say all the different regulatory stuff in Pennsylvania. The Public Utility Commission, the PUC, they do not oversee PJM, but they each will say what happens at the Public Utility Commission, which is a Pennsylvania entity, can impact PJM, and PJM can impact what happens. We'll say their decisions can impact the PUC, the Pennsylvania Utility Commission, but neither one of them have oversight over the other. Now, the Pennsylvania Utility Commission does have oversight over the electricity distribution companies in Pennsylvania. And this is where it gets really, just imagine an organizational chart, right? So you have, I should have drawn, I wish now that you asked this question, I'm going to make this slide for in the future. So picture FERC at the top, as we'll say they oversee PJM, and then right next to PJM, put the Pennsylvania Utility Commission, independent, right? And then they both have influence over the electricity distribution companies. The PJM is the entity that says, you know, what's your demand, and we're gonna give you this much electricity, and we'll make sure it gets to you. Whereas the Pennsylvania Utility Commission then also they talk to electricity distribution companies, and they're more of a this is how you can operate. That these are the this is what you can recover when it comes to grid improvements, and
Mhm.
so it's extremely complicated, but it does. Neither one of like PUC and PJM, they don't have oversight over each other, but you're correct in that there are opportunities to see good work happening at the Public Utility Commission. Some of the legislation that you mentioned, what that'll do is that will allow the Public Utility Commission to do more stuff. It'll enable them to do, because right now as an agency, as an organization, they're only allowed to do what they're legally allowed to do, right? So it would require legislation to give them more options, we'll say, to in order to act, right? So I think that's maybe some of the connection that you were looking for, I hope.
So both of these in tandem need to change to allow more renewable energy coming in. I mean, they're they sort of are on the top of above, 509. So we say, okay, we can have community solar in Pennsylvania, but there's a backlog in the PGM as a backlog for new projects. So yeah.
Well, and that's see, now we're getting into the intricacies here. If a generator is located at the distribution side of the grid, not the transmission side, now all of a sudden, like if you wanted to put a solar panel on your roof, you don't have to go through PJM. You have to go through your own utility, right? And that would be the same for any type of, we'll say, if community solar was not connected to the transmission grid, if that was at the distribution scale, now that is a PUC, not a PJM issue. So it's different scales of what we'll say oversight there.
So we
Okay,
have
okay, thank you.
Can I ask
we
a
have couple
question?
of questions. Yeah, I want to just I have you, Dave, in the queue. I wanted to get to Alan's question first. He says in the chat, are other RTOs better models than PJM? And how does the PUC compare to other state PUCs on RTO issues? So two-part question there.
Well, I'll start by saying that the PUC issue, I'm not familiar with other states' PUCs as well. But what I can say is when it comes to the regional transmission operators, the RTOs, I hesitate to say better or worse. What I would say is the other RTOs provide ample opportunity for examples for improvement, is the way I would put that. A lot of the other RTOs use different models, different auction formats, and have they can provide lessons learned and effective models to we'll say to base improvement on.
One thing I'll add to that, and I this is probably the only time you'll hear me say that Texas does it better. But they have their own RTO, and it does have some issues, but one thing it's been really good at is planning to get new clean energy, particularly wind, online quickly. They are able to get new projects up and running and connected to the transmission grid, and they're planning for transmission to get that clean energy to loads much better than we are here. And David Fiedler, you had a question.
Yes, I did. I wanted to get your opinion on how the current administration's war on renewables can potentially jeopardize some of these projects that are already in the queue, and for new ones to basically that are renewables go into the queue. And also, in terms of what we're asking the Pennsylvania Senate to vote on, the attitude seems to flow down from this administration. And while you had bipartisan support in the House, I think that might have been a different time. So I'd just like to get your take on those comments or questions, whatever.
All right. So the first, how is the current, we'll say, federal atmosphere impacting renewable energy projects in the queue? With the sunsetting of the tax credits and other incentives that we had for renewable energy, it's definitely going to have an impact. I wouldn't say bleak, right? But what I would say is it will have an impact. It'll have a negative impact on the renewable energy projects. However, they're affordable, and that you can. I guess the way I like to look at it is, if you need a new car, and I'm just making this up as I talk, so maybe it won't be perfect, but if you need a new car, you need a new car, right? So, and like we have increasing demand, so we need more electricity. So you go and you want a new car, you see a discount on one, and maybe that would be enough to make you think, I want that car because it has the discount. But if the discount was taken away, that car is still going to sell, right? Maybe you're not going to buy it right there at that moment, but that car is still valuable and it's still going to sell. So I think right now renewable energy can compete with fossil fuels. Those incentives just made them stronger competitors, but they're still competitors. So I think that we're still going to see projects added to the queue. We're still going to see projects hopefully flow through the queue. There may be we'll say a decrease in the rate of projects added, but we're still going to see renewable energy projects. The second one about the House Bill 1599 that's in the Senate. The nice thing is House Bill 1599 is not a renewable energy bill, and it is not it's not a bill that has anything to deal with the budget, right? So I'm still optimistic that in the Senate, it'll hopefully still be a bipartisan issue, because really what it is basically saying, make your votes known, for the people that are voting at PJM in the favor of, hopefully better service for the customers, the consumers. Another way to look at customers and consumers is constituents, right? So if you call a state senator and you say, I want this bill because of, whatever, it's in their best interest to listen to their constituents, especially because the voting transparency is not a hot topic. It's not one of the, we'll say, it's not one of those decisive topics like renewable energy versus fossil fuels, or incentives versus not incentives, or whatever else you want to pick out as being controversial. It's relatively non-controversial, and that bill would benefit all consumers, whether they're Republican, Democrat, Independent, or any other type of political affiliation.
Do we have time for one more question?
I won't cut us off. If folks do need to leave, I just want to point out that the recording of this and the slides, it's not going to come out tomorrow, but probably next week after the holiday. Yeah, please feel free to share widely, take the action steps. If you have any other questions, send us an email. Our chapter advocacy team meets on the first Thursday of every month. So that is what, like next week, possibly. I'll get my act together on that. And so I will include links to how you can join us for that as well. So, yep, I will turn it back over to the question.
Okay. One last question for tonight. Kathleen asks in the chat, about what is the burden of data centers on the electric grid. Many are being built, a lot of them are AI. I'll address that quickly. And I'll say one thing is that we have just decided that that's going to be likely the topic of our next CEFA webinar in October because it is such a hot topic. The answer is yes. They are they are impacting demand. They're actually one of the primary drivers of demand growth in PJM. It is not. It affects some areas more than others because they tend to cluster. But some of these data centers demand as much power as a small city. It is rather incredible how much energy it takes. And so that is one of the prime drivers in increasing prices. It wouldn't be such a bad thing if it wasn't so hard to build new generation, particularly clean generation. But those two issues colliding are what's really kind of driving prices up. And so we will talk a lot more about data centers next time.
Okay, so I think, oh, Patricia, are you raising your hand? No, okay. All right, so with that, we will go ahead and wrap for the evening. Thank you all for coming tonight and enjoy the waning hours of sunshine, and stay tuned. We will start advertising our just decided webinar for October shortly. So, all right, take care, y'all. Thanks so much.